Alright. The key here is going to be this railgun. Holy shit.
Cooldown in progress. Please reactivate power sources.
Damn, it needs power.
Yep.
Felt that, did you? How about some more?
I already know how to beat this guy. Well, like, I don't actually know, but like, I can extrapolate from my knowledge with Resident Evil. And this is assisted mode, so this should be really easy. Yep.
Power sources remaining.
What? Oh, fuck me on a goose.
Go ahead! I'm gonna put you right back on your ass.
Shoot the glowy spots is the main thing.
One power source remaining.
Come on.
All power sources activated.
It should take like
Think I don't know how to fuck you up?
2 or 3 shots with this thing to take him out. Oh, was that it? 2 shots because it's assisted? Yep.
Come on! Next time, take the fucking hit! Good riddance.
Yeah, that boss battle was supposed to be way more intense, and it should have been way more intense. I had to put it on assisted to get to this point. So, my regrets. Oh well. Alright. Yeah, okay, back to earlier when I said, you know, you want stars, I'll give you stars. Like, she doesn't kill him straight up with a railgun, like she shoots him with a railgun in the original. Like what happens though is like she starts shooting him with a regular pistol while he's just dissolving. And then while she's shooting with a pistol, or magnum, she goes, you want, because he keeps going, stars. And she goes, you want stars? I'll give you stars. It's such a badass moment. So like I like that they kept the line, but they put it in the wrong place. But I'd rather them kept the line than not, so I'll take what I get.
Can't let Nikolai get away with that vaccine.
This looks like the facility kind of from 2. And also, it's not actually like unbelievable that Jill would voluntarily fight the thing by herself, because she did go through the events of Resident Evil 1 before, which was the Spencer Mansion. If you've never played it, crazy shit happened there.
I can still catch him.
You sure about that? I'm not sure about that.
Oh no.
You're not going to stay. Promised you this, didn't I?
No! Do you have any idea what you've just done?
No, no, don't care. My client ordered me to reduce umbrella to drop.
10 minutes until missile
Ah.
impact.
The missile has launched. And that is my cue. Goodbye, Miss Valentine. Shame you didn't listen to me when you had the
Jill!
Can I shoot it? I'll shoot.
Shoot him!
Can I shoot?
I can't! I'll hit you!
Do it! You have to! There's no other way.
Carlos!
Fuck that motherfucker.
Hey, I told you I couldn't leave you in a Carlos's world. That would just be too cruel. What about him?
Kill him, fucking ass.
Why'd you do it?
There's a price tag for everything. Even letting the world burn.
Who are you working for?
I'll tell you, if you get me out of here. I'll pay you whatever you want. You're a fool. You're a fool! If I die, you'll never find out the truth.
I don't mind a little detective work.
Jill, you alright?
There it is.
It's finally over.
So long, RC.
I felt empty and cold as the heat from the blast washed over us. All this death wasn't caused by a monster-making virus. It was greed. Human greed. I decided then and there, the ashes of Raccoon City would be Umbrella's ashes too. I would end them, once and for all.
Alright. So, now that I'm done with this damn thing, time for my usual review type shit during the credits. Unless the credits get too loud, in which case I'll skip them. So the first thing I'll do is judge this game by its merits alone. Some things it did right. Raccoon City actually looks like a fucking city rather than just some like alleyways and shit. And it looks way more vibrant. Although, one thing I gotta say though is that like, it looked more desolate in the original. You know, I said it was its own merits. One thing I say though, it kind of it encourages exploration in the sense that there's a lot of buildings to go into and a lot of shit to find, but it doesn't encourage it in the sense that like you don't get, like, a lot of shit is hidden behind lockpicks, and you don't get the lockpick until, like, after you're done with that part of the thing. So, like, in order to explore everything, you have to backtrack. And I didn't even care to do that. Like, I didn't even open up half the fucking doors and lockers that were available. Let's see, one thing I did right though. The dodge was excellent. The original game's dodge, you either aimed right, like it was really weird. Like, the buttons just really weird. This game's dodging was rather well. And this game also has a mechanic where if you perfect dodge, you can sit there and, like, slow-mo aim to get some shots on zombies. I never once used that, and that's not out of my lack of skill. I never once used that on purpose, because I never cared for popping a few bullets into an enemy. I never really cared for that. Like, if I'm perfect dodging your ass, it's to get the fuck out of there. So I never cared for it. Now, one thing I will say is that the game is pretty short, but I enjoyed it while it lasted, with one exception. Well, two exceptions. One being, I feel like part of the reason why it's so short is because they omitted a lot of stuff, like a lot of environments. More on that later. The Nemesis stuff was less. Okay, here's my issue with the Nemesis stuff. I know I was gonna say something, I forgot about it. I'll put it in the text or something. The Nemesis stuff was totally fine in the Raccoon City part of this whole shit in the streets. After that, they relegated it to, like, on-rail segments and chase scenes and boss fights, which, I mean, like, it's fine and all, that's fine, but, like, they should have done more with just that. Now, here's something I gotta start now, too. I'm gonna start comparing to the original now. I'm sorry if this is all over the place. I like the throwback with Marvin, but I also dislike it. Because, like, these reimaginings seem to pretty much have their own continuity at this point, because the original games coincided their canonicity with Outbreak and Outbreak File 2. Outbreak File 2 is a scenario game, and one of the scenarios is the police officers in that RPD fending off the zombies. And one thing that happens is it shows how Marvin gets hurt in that one too, and it's very different. So they pretty much retcon that. So I consider this to be like its own continuity. Now, as far as Brad goes, I like it, but I also dislike it. I like it in the sense that they made him not such a pussy, but that's also a dislike at the same time though, because in the first Resident Evil, he is a pussy. So all they did in the original was just keep him as he was. Because in the original, like, he was a punk the entire time. So, like, him not being weak and was, like, out of character for him. Yeah, it was like weak and out of character for him. 5 hours and 45 minutes. Yeah, whatever. Marvin's character was fine. Kendo's character, I mean, they did almost they had a whole letter between Jill and Kendo, so I thought there was gonna be like a big thing between them. It was like one cutscene, that's it. Let me go ahead and mention the parts, like the locations, and also, first the build up. This game, dude, like, it started out with a nemesis immediately, and like it was just action on us from the start, dude. Like, the first game started out slow, like it built up everything. You saw Brad scared for his life, and then when you finally reach the RPD, you see the nemesis for the first time, and it's fucking terrifying. And you fight the nemesis in the RPD, like, that shit's crazy, dude. But like, there's so much that they omitted though. Like, there were so many good puzzles, difficult puzzles by the way, but good puzzles, that they just straight up didn't even include. I can't even list them all. And what ones they did include, half of them were fucking optional. Like the one in the beginning at the subway place where you have to find the fancy box for. Like, I don't even know what the fuck that yields. What the fuck? And then another thing they really messed up the RPD, like, because they did relegate it to a Carlos only thing. Like, that should have been part of the main story. Like, Jill's part of the whole thing. That should have been part of that. Another major location they fucked up, and this disappoints the fuck out of me, is the clock tower. They mention the clock tower in this one, and that's fucking it. Like, really? Like, dude, the clock tower was a huge part of it. In fact, the whole reason why they used the train in the original is because they have a call sign for a helicopter to come pick them up, which is the toll of the bell on the clock tower. And so you explore, you solve some puzzles and shit, and then you eventually ring the bell, and then Nemesis comes out, and the helicopter comes, Nemesis comes out and blows up the fucking helicopter. Like, it was such a main part of it. Like, I'm just like, and also there's even like a park/zoo type deal. Like, I think it was a park, the Raccoon City Park, that had crazy shit in it, and boss fights in a really difficult puzzle, and a Nemesis thing on a bridge, and they excluded they excluded so much. And here's the thing too, though, this game was not rushed, and I know that because this game started development back in 2016. This came in 4 fucking years. So there's no way in fuck's name this game was rushed. So like it amazes me how much they omitted. Like, this game could have been longer. And I'm telling you right now, this game had a lot of missed potential. It did. Because of all the shit it omitted. And it's rather short because of, 1, they omitted shit, and 2, they omitted the live selections. Like, the live selections were a major part of the original game because it gave it a lot of replay value. Because, like I mentioned earlier, when you get the shit for the train to get it going, you're free to explore and find the shit on your own. And depending on which item you get first, it changes things within the game. You might meet Carlos in one building or another. You might meet Nikolai in one building or another. You might meet Nemesis one building or another, you know, or any combination of the 3 or 4 options there. And whenever shit like that happened, there was inevitably a live selection. So like, and that happened regularly throughout the game. So you can see what I'm saying. Like, there was a lot, like the original game wasn't very long either. The original game was like 6 and a 6.5 hour runtime, which is ironically more than what I fucking did here on my first go around. The original game was like 6 hours or 7. But the original game had a lot of replayability because of that. So much stuff is omitted, dude. Like even like the popular consensus on the internet is ambivalent about this game. Well, I should not even know, but actually more people, here's the thing too, a lot of the more gamer focused shit seems to dislike this game, which I don't straight up dislike it, but like a lot of people, like I saw one thing that said this game was straight up trash, which I disagree with. I want to put that right now. This game is not straight up trash. My opinion, although critics have been praising it except for its short length, I'm ambivalent. Because, like, I like the game, but it's short, and it's partly because they omitted the live selections, they omitted so much other shit. Like, they added the sewer, and one thing I'll say about the sewer was a fantastic part. Like, it didn't last too long, it wasn't big and winding and shit. The gammas were there, which was fine, as long as you had the firepower to deal with them. Honestly, I can only say this. It was one of the better sewer sections I've played in a game, honestly. The original Resident Evil 2 also had a good sewer section. Because it was nice and short. Actually, this one was better than the original Resident Evil 2 sewer section. I don't know, it's a decent one too. But I like the sewer section. The hospital section was also quite fine. Actually, okay, here's one thing I'll say about this game. Is that The atmosphere, I know this game is in the category survival horror. I honestly can't even put it as survival horror, and the reason why is because like, with the exception, okay, the hospital was a pretty tense thing. Minus one part that I'll mention in a minute. Fuck that part. But the hospital was pretty. That was a good vibe. That was a good atmosphere. Like, I was on edge the whole time I was there. And the other part would be the ending lab. That ending lab also had my shit in gear. Now, but aside from those two locations though, and aside from the adrenaline rush you got whenever you were near the Nemesis, actually that was an adrenaline rush. That wasn't terror. Like, with the exception of the hospital and the lab, most of the hospital, there was never a time when I was like on edge. Like, there honestly wasn't in this game. In Resi 2 reimagining, there was. I was on edge for like a lot of it, especially during the sewer and especially during pretty much the whole fucking thing. Like, the only time that the only two moments where I was really not on edge in Resi 2 reimagining was when I was in areas that I already cleared out because I didn't care, and when Mr. X was around, because Mr. X took the atmosphere that was well done and fucked it up. Which is why I fucking hate Mr. X in that fucking game. They fucking fucked him up so bad. But like, this game didn't really terrify me that much. Like, honestly. Like, the original game, whenever Nemesis would sit there and chase after you, there were scripted boss fights, but there weren't like a lot of on-rails things with him. Like, the way it would go, there were two scripted things. One of them was boss fights, the other one was that like you might complete a certain puzzle or grab a certain item, and then once you get back to a certain place, they'll have Nemesis spawn out of nowhere. That way you can chase him around. He can give you a hard time and possibly kill you, which fucking sucks. But like, most of the time though, he was anywhere and you didn't know where he was. And it was especially terrifying. Like he could be chasing after you. He would chase you through doorways and shit, and he would run after you, and you could see him running after you, and it was terrifying. And then, like, you could be in an area, and Nemesis might not be in that area with you, but there's this ominous kind of music that plays that lets you know he's near, so be wary. It does a similar thing in the safe room, like I said earlier, but it's a different sort of vibe from that. But dude, like overall, I like the game, but it's taken down. Now, my opinion, like, it's taken down a few notches, and it's not even because of the short length itself. It's because of it's because of the way they handled Nemesis, making him such an on-rails enemy and boss fights. There should have been a lot more of him just roaming around and shit. And the other, like Mr. X, dude, like, he should have been roaming around the fucking place like Mr. X was. Like, honestly. Like, Mr. X in 2019 is more like the fucking Nemesis than this game's fucking Nemesis was. This game's Nemesis was only the Nemesis for like 20 minutes. And that's a fucking disappointment to me, honestly. The Nemesis, the way they handled him was a disappointment to me. Like, come on, bro. He should have been chasing, he should have been running after you. Like what would make it exciting? Like, he jumps after you and shit. Like if he ran after you, and then like there was a subtle cue. Let's say like he's behind you. Let's say like a sound cue that just happens real quick, and so you notice instinctively to press the dodge button when you hear that sound, and then you fucking perfect dodge his ass, like while he's chasing you, like something like that. Like, that would have been fucking great, dude. Like, honestly. And then like you can use a slow-mo aiming thing to like stun him or something. That would have been fucking fantastic. But they did not do that. I think Mr. X was mishandled, and the omitted shit. I'm not going to mention the short length specifically because the short length is because of the omitted shit. The RPD was mishandled as far as I'm concerned. Like, because like the RPD, like there was no point to it. It was fan service, dude. Their whole point was to find Bart, but he wasn't even there. So it was just fan service. Like in the original game, what you like, there's some puzzles and shit, but your ultimate goal of being there was to get the lockpick, because you get the lockpick pretty early on in that game. Like, so there was a real point to it. And also, you know, the RC itself felt more run down and desolate in the original, because like there was trash thrown around. You could hear people getting eaten alive and shit. And like aside from a little bit of running away at the very beginning, this game didn't have anything like that. It was just zombies roaming around. So it felt more post-apocalyptic in the original game. And then Dario was also really like Jill was staying with Dario in the original game. Like she was like his like roommate or some shit before he sat there and climbed up into the trailer. And then you can go back there even and find him dead, eaten by zombies. I will tell you this right now. Oh yeah, here's another thing too. Besides the sewers, they didn't even add shit. And the sewers was just a regular sewer level. It was a good sewer level, but it was just a sewer level. Like, 2 didn't add too much either. It really only added the orphanage. But the orphanage actually had some interesting, albeit poignant, fucked up backstory lore to it. So I'll give that one a +1 because the orphanage was actually an interesting place. Okay, here's my thing about this game. Like, I'll have to say straight up, I do consider this to be as far as being like a successor to the original games goes, I do consider this to be a weaker successor to the original 3 than 2 was to the original 2. I consider it to be a weaker successor because like 2 only had 3 major issues and that was it. One was the soundtrack, which the game should have fucking had one, is my point there. 2 is they should have not fucked up Mr. X. If Mr. X behaved the way he's supposed to, it would have been fine. In case you're curious, in case you don't know, the way Mr. X is supposed to behave is that he kind of chills around one area and he switches like one area at a time, and so you know not to go into those areas, otherwise he's gonna be there. And when you're in those areas, you dread him, and then if you're not in those areas, you dread having to go to them. So when it inevitably happens that you have to go through those areas, it's just dreadful. Rather than him just walking around you constantly and breaking any fucking tension the game fucking had. And the last one was the A and B scenarios, because they didn't have any. If they would have put A and B scenarios and not fucked up backstory and not done the soundtrack, I would honestly, with the exception of nostalgia, I might even prefer the new 2 to the old 2, if they didn't fuck up those 3 things. Now when it comes to this game, they didn't really fuck up the soundtrack because there wasn't really a soundtrack to fuck up. They omitted a lot of shit though. And I'm not gonna lie, they even changed the tone. Because like the original game was more action oriented than the ones before it, but it still had a survival horror tone. There was still lots of tension and a lot of shit. Like, there was tension with Nemesis, yes. There was a good vibe in the hospital and the lab. Mostly hospital, yes. And sewer actually too, sewer as well. Yes. Aside from that though, and there was also inventory management, but like there wasn't a consistent horror vibe like there was with the original 3. Like, yeah, like even if 2 hadn't fucked up those 3 things, nostalgia wise I would still prefer the original 2, but objectively I would probably think the new 2 is better. With this game, dude, like, they've omitted and changed up too much shit for me to objectively say that this one is better than the original 3. Like, if I had to give this game a, let's say if I had to give this grade a letter grade, right? I think my grade for this game, as of right now, I just finished the first time. My letter grade for this game right now is a B minus. Because what it does right. While you're playing it, it's a good game. They made it too action oriented. But I can't really blame for that too much. Actually, you know what? I just remembered something with the hospital. That stupid fucking horde mode. I didn't even put it up. It's not even on my thing. But there's a horde mode in the hospital. And that horde mode was the stupidest fucking thing they could have put in this fucking game. You know what? Let me take down that letter grade just because that stupid fucking horde mode. That should have been in the game. You know what? That takes it down a whole letter grade for me. Scratch that B minus. This game is a C minus to me. Just because that fucking horde mode that should not have been there. That is how much I hate that fucking horde mode. I'm taking down a whole fucking letter grade for it. Fuck that horde mode and everything it stands for. Just fuck that horde mode. Fuck it. Fuck it. Fuck it. I cannot emphasize that enough. Fuck the horde mode. The horde section. Fuck it. Fuck everything it stands for. Fuck it to hell. Jesus. That does not belong in the original show. You want to put a horde mode in a fucking reimagining Capcom? How about putting it in a game like 4 or 5, which actually have their own fucking horde modes in the game? Which 4, 5, and 6 are the worst. 4, 5, 6, and 0 are the worst Resident Evil games in the franchise. But put it in like 4 or 5. Or 6, hell. Like, shit. And a lot of people wouldn't like that, because like to a lot of people, 4 is the best in the series. I don't fucking know how. I legitimately don't. Like, I don't mean to digress. Like 4 is a good, okay, if I think about it as a standalone game not connected to Resident Evil, then 4 is a good game with outdated controls. That's my opinion of it. But as a Resident Evil game, it's trash. Straight up. Like, I just gotta say, it's trash. If you don't like me saying that, you don't have to. To me, it's trash as a Resident Evil game. Good game, trash Resident Evil game. But so are 5 and 6. 5 and 6 are also trash Resident Evil games. Now, but they all have their own saving graces. 4 saving graces that it's a good game in its own right, and 5 and 6 saving graces they're both excellent co-op games. The only one that has no saving grace is 0, because once you get past the train segment in 0, the rest of it just sucks, and there's no redeeming qualities. But yeah, if you want to put a horde mode in a fucking game, put it in 4, 5, or 6, because those are the fucking games it belongs in. Like, straight up. So this game gets a C minus for me. I think it's the first time I've ever given a letter grade to a game before. Interesting. Well, I'll give 1 to 2 now, since I already beat that one last year. 2's letter grade. I'll give it a B. I'll give 2 a solid B. It misses the A minus, A, and A plus because of those 3 issues that I have with it. So I'll give it a B plus. Yeah, not even a solid B. I'll give it a B plus. The 2 remake. This one gets a C minus. Oh, is there anything else to go over though? They fucked up the clock tower. They fucked up the park. They fucked up the life selections. I've already gone over the shit they did right. Yo, you know what? Here's another thing too. Here's one thing that I'm kind of ambivalent about, is the knife. 2 had it as a sub-weapon, which mirrors 1 remake, which also had sub-weapons. Here's what, okay. I would like it to be a mix between 2 and 3. The way, because 2 did it as a sub weapon where you could stop zombies from attacking you, but if you didn't have a sub weapon, they got a guaranteed bite on you. With 3, they have a guaranteed bite on you no matter what, but you keep the grenades and knife all the time. Like, so like honestly, I prefer it as a sub weapon. I do. And like, I want to be able to like stop a zombie from attacking me altogether. Like in 2. And I'm fine with taking the knife back out, but still keep the knife indestructible. But make it so they're also pick up knives around the environment just in case you lose your knife. Because like one of their points, Capcom's points of making it indestructible again, was so that people could sit there and have like their knife all the time. That way, you know, if they run out of everything, they at least have a knife. Like, bro, like the only time I ever even cared to use the knife was when I kept running out of ammo during that hunter shit. And even then the knife didn't do jack shit because I was against fucking hunters. So having the knife be there like that didn't reserve. So like, here's my thing about it. I wish there were still sub-weapons in this game, but I do like the whole, you know, pressing X thing in order to get out of the grip if you don't have a sub-weapon or if you miss the button timing. I do like that. So that's my thing on the sub-weapons. You know what, another fuck up for this game? They didn't include ink ribbons, even on the hardcore difficulty, bro. If you're on the fucking hardcore difficulty, there needs to be some fucking ink ribbons. Like, what the fuck? 3, I'll tell you what. You fuck up the small shit, you fuck up a lot of the big shit too. You know, another thing I'll say here too. This game, while they're enjoyable and nice to look at, there are too many set pieces, mostly involving Nemesis. They should. It makes it too action oriented. They should have. Well, they should have just done Nemesis the way I said earlier. They should have done him that way, rather than just having on-rail segments and set pieces with him. Like the thing with the construction building type deal. Actually, no, that was fine. That was like a boss fight. That was fine. But like falling down that building is what I mean. Like that was too much. Or like the chase on the bridge, and just other shit. Like Brad's character, I think should have. It contradicts the first one. Like Brad's character straight up contradicts itself. His own continuity. Carlos, I actually prefer Carlos in this game, because Carlos in the original game was a bit too innocent and like not hardcore enough, so I like him better in this game actually. The other segments were fine. The trend segment was mostly fine. Honestly, this review is sounding a lot more negative than I anticipated it, but I'm just being honest here. The hunters did their job. They didn't. Well, if they had it, then they didn't use it. Their one-hit decapitation move. The soundtrack did its job. Nemesis did his job for about 20 minutes, and then a few boss fights and set pieces. The city looked more like a city, but it looked less apocalyptic. Brad was done wrong as far as I'm concerned. Kendo wasn't given enough time. And Marvin's segment was actually fine. Like, Marvin's fine. You know what? Big +1. They gave it the, you want stars, I'll give you stars. Here, like, that line, I'm not even kidding, dude. That line was so important to me that they keep, that, like, I might straight up have given this game a D+ if they didn't include that line. Like, that's how important that fucking line is to me. Just, I love that line. It's so classic. It's like the Jill Sandwich line, or the Master of Unlocking line. Like, it's just so iconic. You know, all these lines are dedicated entirely to Jill, huh? Interesting. So, I like the game even though I'm giving it a C-. but blame the fucking horde mode for that. I originally gave this game a B-. If I think of anything else, I'll put it right now. There is actually one thing unrelated to this game, actually. Paul Haddad, the voice actor for Leon in the original Resident Evil 2, died recently. And since he's my voice for Leon, I just wanted to give him a shout out. So, rest in peace, Paul Haddad. That's it. There we go. So, if anything else was added, it was added. If it wasn't, it wasn't. Don't know. My grade for this is a C-, because fuck the horde mode. Fuck that horde mode. Motherfuck that horde mode. Fuck everything that horde mode and it stands for. The second game retained like a lot of the fucking puzzles, but this game got rid of a lot of them. And this game's original game's puzzles were harder. They omitted the puzzles. I think that's about it. So, my hope is that they remake, or at this point reimagine, Code Veronica, because they're not going to remake any Resident Evil games unless it's like 4 or later. They just won't do it. I hope there's a reimagining for 3 games. 4 games. Outbreak File 1 and 2, Code Veronica, 0. I say again, I do not want a reimagining for 1. The 1 remake is already perfect. It's already objectively the best fucking game in the fucking franchise, and I don't want Capcom to fuck that up. Yeah. So, that's what I want in the future. I think Resident Evil 8 is coming out next, though. And aside from that, I think it's about it. So, this has been Resident Evil 3 Reimagining 2020 edition, even though my title is R3make. Stay frosty.